Hello and welcome to the first in the series of Planet Flipside podcasts. We'll be dealing with the paranormal, the supernatural, the occult, the mystical, UFOs. However, today, in this very special first of the series, we'll be discussing near-death experiences with the much-travelled energy healer and all-round wonderful lady, Catherine Pourreau. Catherine, hello there, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Good, and today we're going to be speaking about near-death experiences, Catherine. That's something you have personal experience of.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, I had a near-death experience when I was 20. So that's, just about 30 years ago.
Right, when you were 20, yeah.
Yes.
Can you describe for our listeners exactly what happened?
Yes, at the time, I think we all make silly mistakes at one point or another in our lives, and for some of us, many. What happened at the time is I was a college student, and I didn't have any money, and I was basically living on the dry noodle for
yeah, I've
the
been
week.
there.
And I, on one weekend, decided that I had enough of the dry noodles, and I was going to go and make myself a different sort of dinner. And I can remember when I was a child going with my grandfather in the forest to collect mushrooms, and so off I went to collect mushrooms. I was at the time in Virginia in college, and I made the almost lethal mistake to go and collect mushrooms that ended up being lethal ones.
Oh dear.
And the second mistake I made then was to think that if I would cook them, it would actually neutralize any possible toxins. Well, apparently it just makes them more toxic.
Oh, I see.
So this is how the experience started. I had a whole plate full of deadly mushrooms.
Oh dear.
Now, what happened then is an experience that lasted 48 hours. I was by myself, so there was nobody to rescue me.
Uh-huh.
It started off pretty quickly. I realized that I had made a mistake, and I felt pretty nauseous and not well at all. But very, very quickly, I started going in and out of consciousness. Then I went into a series of sort of hallucinations, on and off. Now, I just want to mention at this stage that I have had very little religious upbringing, and I was not raised Catholic or anything else.
Yeah.
And my parents were not practicing any religion at all, so my understanding of religion was very limited. But what happened then is I started to get hallucination of a what I considered at the time of a religious nature.
Okay.
I don't remember all of it, but some things really stuck in my mind, and that's the part where I would, for example, look outside and I would see the trees on fire. I knew that had a religious component, and I also was getting quite a lot of information about the second coming of Christ. Actually, I was made aware that there was a second coming of Christ, and that Christ would this time be more of a instead of being a more male sort of presence, would be a feminine presence. So we're, in my very limited understanding of religious concepts at the time, I interpreted that as meaning the second Christ will be a woman, not a man. And this happened in my lifetime. And a lot of things with that. This is when I still had a little bit of conscious awareness of what I was seeing and experiencing. What happened then is, again, I was on and off, losing consciousness and being conscious of certain things. And what happened then is that I must have gone to lay down on my bed. I don't remember any of that. But what I do remember clearly is leaving my body. I left my body in a pretty sudden way. Because one moment I was present in my body, and the next moment I was actually on a ceiling, parallel to the ceiling, and actually looking down at my physical body laying on the bed. And I had that seemed to last quite a while, so I could actually clearly see that there was a part of me that was the conscious part of me, actually looking down at my body, and I was not in my body, I was on the ceiling.
Yeah, that appears to be a universal component of people's near-death experiences, is this out-of-body experience.
Later on when I started then investigating and researching.
Yeah, it's indeed there's some research going on with Southampton University at the moment to prove that actually does happen, and they've developed quite a novel technique where they're leaving things on high shelves in emergency rooms so that they're not observable from the level that the patient would come into a resuscitation room, for example. And then once they've survived their death experience, if you like, that they're then going to ask, did you see anything on the upper shelves? And I really do look forward to the conclusions that they come forward to, because I think it will surprise everyone. I think that they will have some success with that, because I really do believe...
I've heard of these reports. In my case, there was nobody else around, but I have a feeling that when we're in this space, although we are very, very aware and conscious of everything, every detail in the room, the understanding is that we're not able to communicate in any way, shape, or form with anybody who's around. Well, I was on my own, but this is what I've read from the reports subsequent to my experience, that we can't actually communicate, obviously, with the people around, but we are aware of everything they're saying, doing, and so forth, because we're not in our body.
Yeah.
We can't communicate. And so that can be pretty frightening. It was a frightening experience for me.
Yeah.
I did not know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't re-enter my body. I was stuck up there. And there's nothing I could do about it, and it was very odd. I had no sense of a body then. It was just a consciousness.
Yeah, I see. And I'm just wondering how you managed to come back to your body again then.
Well, that was just the start. Now, what happened after that is, again, I lost consciousness for a short while. And from the out-of-body experience, I went straight into the tunnel. Now, this tunnel has been described many, many times, and that's definitely the experience that I had. It looks like a tube, I suppose, because it has some very rough sides to it at the beginning. But then what happens is that we start, I certainly did, start accelerating forward into this tunnel at increasing speed. And as it goes faster and faster and faster, the sides of the tunnel become less and less clear, and also more and more light.
I see.
To be present, so that after a while, the actual appearance of the tunnel disappears, but it just becomes just like we're accelerating forward into this tunnel of just light.
And were you reeling against that, or
more and more conscious of?
But so you weren't actively fighting or resisting that traveling through the tunnel. You were simply letting go and following.
There was no. I had no. As if I had no control over the process itself. I was doing it. I was in the middle of it. I was accelerating, and I didn't have a feeling that I could actually control that process. It was just happening to me, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, I understand. So ultimately, how did you come back?
Well, there came a point with the acceleration that, again, I didn't have any understanding of any of this or what was happening to me, but there came a point where I heard a voice. Now, this phenomenon of the voice had intrigued me for many, many years. There's not that many reports on that, but I heard a voice that was very calm, very clear, and it didn't appear to be my voice. And now I heard this voice that said to me, "You have choice." And it said to me, it made me understand. Part of it I seemed to be hearing it, and the other part was telepathic. But it was clearly making me understand that I could, if I were to continue going forward, I would not be able to come back.
I
but
see.
I